Most of us focus on time, wondering how much time we have left to create, wondering how much time we have left to change, and also spending so much time trying to manage our time. What if the creation process for our goals and hopes and dreams could be shrunk? Well, I found a way to do it, and for me, it was by embracing my dark side. So what is a dark side? A dark side is that place that we would rather not show other people. And a lot of times, it's the face that we put on to cover it up. And a lot of times, it has some sort of shame and guilt wrapped around it. My dark side? I'm selfish, I'm judgmental, and I'm a liar. And once I started to say these things without apology and without shame and guilt, it's become so much easier to create in my life in a shorter amount of time. I am the most important person in my life. I want everybody to try and say that with me. Say, I am the most important person in my life. Now, for some of you, it may have felt super awkward to say that, especially as women. We think about, what about my partner and my kids and my pets, my community? Some of you may not have been able to say it at all because it felt that awkward. And for some of you, you may have had a bit of judgment for me being able to say that, knowing that I am weeks away from becoming a mother. So my invitation is that we redefine selfishness. Selfishness is often looked at as a negative thing because we associate it with taking away from somebody else for our own gain. What if being selfish actually looked like asking for what we wanted and what we needed in order to powerfully show up for other people and deliver in ways that we've never been able to do before? Women have this amazing ability to grow wherever they're planted. We are those little weeds that spring up in the cracks of cement and make things work, the most impossible situations. And the hard part is that we take pride in being able to build something with absolutely nothing. And because of that, it really takes a toll. Because how much more could we create if we actually asked for the things that we needed? So I want us to redefine selfishness as being able to give more powerfully by asking for what we need. And it's when I started to do this, I started to ask for what I needed and for what I wanted and embrace that selfishness that I started to bend time. And maybe being selfish is the most selfless thing we could do. So I was a dentist in my former life, and I grew up in a small town in New Mexico, 8,000 people. And I remember being in my high school communications class, senior year, and everybody in my class was super optimistic about, that feeling that you get when you're about to graduate high school and the whole world is your oyster type of thing. And our counselor came in to talk to us about what you want to be when you grow up, basically. And he came in and he asked us, what do you want to do when you leave here? And people's hands went up. I want to be an attorney. I want to be a physical therapist. I want to be a fashion designer. And he said, just so you know, nobody from this high school has ever completed professional school. And the most any of you can hope for is Hamburger University. Now, fast forward 15 years, and I am a practicing dentist, and I am living a checklist lifestyle. Now, a checklist lifestyle are all the things that I thought that I needed to be happy. I had 2 degrees, I'm married, I gave birth to my son in a tub naturally without any medications. I recycled, I volunteered, and I drove a Prius. I even cared if my organic chickens that I ate had a happy life. And the truth was, I probably cared more if those chickens had a happy life than I cared if I had a happy life. Because once I started on this path of checking off all of these things that would give me happiness, I started noticing that my hobby became judging people. And I was finding myself in talking to you. So I would compare how many degrees I had with you so I could feel special. I would compare my volunteer activities with yours or your lack thereof so I could feel special. And when I started to really get this, I realized that because I wasn't being who I needed to be, I was spending all of my time judging you. Time started to shift for me once I could admit that I actually wasn't judging you, that I was judging myself against you. Now, at this point in my life, I wish I could say I was so miserable and upset, but I wasn't miserable. I had that feeling of something being off and something being really uneasy and not knowing how I had this great life, right? And still felt like it wasn't enough. And the problem with not being miserable is that you don't know that you have to change. And once I started looking at why I wasn't miserable, it was because I had become such a professional at lying to myself. I had told myself that I really wanted to be a dentist and that it was my dream. But going back to the conversation that I had in high school and the message that I got from my counselor, it's not that I wanted to be a dentist and that it was my dream. My dream was to not feel insignificant. And when I started looking at all the other decisions that I was making, it was really easy to see where I was lying to myself about why I was making those decisions. I started noticing that I had this list of everything that I cared for, but I actually stood for nothing. All of my time was being diverted into causes that maybe I didn't care for. And not to say that those causes aren't great, but the question I had to start asking myself is, am I the person to do something about everything? And if I could focus my time and my energy in one area, how could I impact and actually make a change instead of looking like I was making a change? My pursuit of sainthood was really wasting a lot of my time, and I wasn't being effective in any of those areas. Time finally started to shift for me when I could hold up all of my choices to the light and see which ones were lies. So today, I'm not a dentist anymore. I ask for what I want and for what I need, and no is a complete sentence that I can say without apology and without explanation. I've diverted my energy into mentoring women, something that I'm super passionate about, and left behind something that I thought gave me an identity. So today, my invitation to everybody is to explore your dark side, that area where you don't want people to see, where there may be some shame and guilt, and ask yourself, how have those things perfectly prepared you for the future that you need to step into? Next, I invite you to redefine selfishness as the most selfless thing that you can do, not only for yourselves, but for your communities and for your family. And finally, I ask you that if you came here today and have any of these places where you feel undecided, to just make a decision. Make a decision today that will change your life and the direction and the course and the impact that you have on everyone around you forever.